Good morning and welcome to the Standing Committee's meeting for Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. All council meetings will continue to be live streamed on the city's website. Our first order of business is roll call. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Reverend Burgess.
Here.
Mr. Coghill. Ms. Gross.
Here.
Mr. Kraus.
No.
Mrs. Kilsmith.
Here.
Mrs. Strasburger.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Lavelle, Chair.
Here.
7 members present.
Thank you. Our next order of business is public comment. I would like to remind all speakers that the rules of council state that comments are limited to matters of concern, official action, or deliberation which are or may be before city council, and profanity will not be permitted. After you are called, please restate your name and neighborhood for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Our first registered speaker is Naomi Mullen.
Good morning. Shady trees, not shady deals in Bon Air. According to the Pennsylvania Constitution, the purpose of government is for the peace, safety, and happiness of the people they serve. The Bon Air Memorial Green Space is the solution for the peace, safety, and happiness of the Bon Air community. Without the peace, safety, and happiness of the people, there is no valid governance. Open deals in Bon Air. Councilman Kraus got a deal to gain McKinley Park from us. Now we want a green space in place of the detrimental school building. Acquire Bon Air School for $1, tear it down, use Pittsburgh trees and parks tax money to make a green space. Michael J. Mullen Reflections by Battalion Chief Douglas Praskovich. Retired Deputy Chief Mike Mullen touched the lives of many people. His uncompromising dedication to his sworn duty to provide for the safety of the citizens of Pittsburgh was truly exceptional and one that should be emulated by every firefighter. He loved sharing his knowledge of firefighting in all its many aspects to make our firefighters safer, smarter, and more efficient on the fire ground. Mike knew most of the firefighters on the entire Pittsburgh Bureau of Fire by their first name and was always approachable regardless of rank. If you had a question, he would stop what he was doing to answer it. He worked tirelessly, but also energetically his entire career in pursuit of more knowledge. His legacy will serve our citizens and firefighters for many years to come. Michael J. Mullen lived a full life, as his obituary so accurately described. Mike was passionate, tireless, dedicated, highly conscientious, and caring. Well done, Michael. Well done. Rest in peace, my friend. We, the people of Bon Air, have maintained our properties and participated in many functions here. Our community made it extremely clear at our town hall meeting in May of 2021 that we oppose a detrimental property. Join our supporters, Mayor Gainey, Councilman Coghill, and State Representative Benham for the creation of a green space. The Memorial Green Space is the solution for the peace, safety, and happiness of our community. Shady trees, not shady deals in Bon Air. Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Mary Byer. Is Mary Byer with us? If not, that exhausts our list of registered speakers. Is there anyone in chambers wishing to speak? Please come forward at this time. Provide your name and neighborhood for the record. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Yes.
My name is Yvonne F. Brown. I live at 715 Mercer Street. That's at the senior citizen home up at the top where the Civic Arena used to be. You know, yesterday Ed came, and I was kind of upset talking to Mr. Burgess about how he came out and was hollering at me and treating me so bad. But you know something? I'm walking through the neighborhood, and I deal with the homeless. But a homeless man showed me something that I had not thought about. Someone was messing with him. He said, I seen a homeless man, he did like this. This is my space, like that. I wish I had seen that homeless man before he came back, because when he come back hollering at me, I would have did the same thing. This is my space. I am upset because, like I said, my husband is crippled. He worked for this city, first with URA, then went to Housing Authority. I want to explain for you to understand. He worked out there at Auburn Tires. The 3 maintenance men, because of asbestos, all of them had stroke. Alan Smart died first. Then in a couple months, then there was another man. I can't remember his name. Then in a couple months, my husband. And that's because of the asbestos. Because he used to do it on the weekend. I used to drive him because he would have to empty the garbage and stuff. And they had a little room. I would lay down while he go empty the garbage. But he had been letting this man, the other man, do that. He said, baby, you don't have to get up every morning. But the man that was, the maintenance man would empty the garbage and it would get stuck in the chute. And my husband was talking about there was times that he would have to be just a half an hour. Boom, 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 trying to get that garbage to come down. That's why he had the stroke, because of the work that he did. All 3 of them had strokes, so it had to be the building. I want you to understand, I come down, I have a right to speak. I believe anytime my husband is crippled because he worked for this city, he worked for the Housing Authority. I had my nephew, I found out 2 of them worked for the city. Gary, when I was talking about my nephew Gary, Miss Harris cut me off. That's when the men from the city came and they were upset. They said how nasty he was. But Gary used to work for this city. I had 2 nephews. My husband, my 2 nephews, but my husband, the main thing, because he was active and he drank carrot juice every day, so he shouldn't have had a stroke. But anytime that asbestos and stuff is coming down on you every weekend, so he finally stopped the man. He said, Yvonne, you're going to have to take me because I can't take that garbage coming down on me. I want you to understand that you're sitting here and you're acting like you're doing something. And when I ask questions, you won't answer saying that you can't. When then you answer, you pick and choose who you want to answer. Because I was explaining to my councilman, I said that how I asked him questions, he would say, I can't answer you because it's against the law. So I asked her, how come all of you didn't go to jail? Because you would run back here and answer questions anytime your people come.
Next speaker, please. Next speaker, please.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Flora Shapiro Williams, and I am a resident at 715 Mercer Street in the Hill District, and I'm coming down here. I want everyone to know that my coming here has not been in vain. A door has been opened for us to obtain security in the building I live at Kaylee Irvis Towers, where the majority of the seniors are living, and where we have church twice a week there and Bible study on Thursday under the direction of Dr. Cornell Bronson and his lovely wife Retta Bronson, who both carry a passion for the elderly. They bring the church where the elderly are not able to get back out to the churches like they used to. So we have a church in the building to accommodate them. Now, so they're not able to, so now this is all I need now. I need a pro bono attorney to inspect the law, because coming down here, I've been going up to the law library and looking to see what laws that I can find to obtain security in our buildings, because the people that own the building do not want to pay for security. However, I think believe that I have found a door to go into, but I do need a pro bono attorney to inspect the laws that I have found. So if anyone that is interested to help us out, my number is area code 412-692-0243. I appreciate all the help that you have been giving me, and I thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, I'm Bernadette from Beachview. Thank you for this constitutional forum. Thank you, councilmen, councilwomen, Reverend, and President Smith. Thank you. Having said that, I recently received hundreds of dollars in repairs to my chair, without which I'd be homebound again. However, they also discovered damage to the steering tiller and lights electrical knocking loose due to the slamming of potholes and wheelchair easements. Simply put, connectors get knocked off, putting me in danger. I can't go to senior center for computer time because ADA doors, as of last I checked, still don't work. The buttons. It's too painful fighting with the illegal fake heavy doors that are supposed to be ADA accessible. To go to the library instead, I can use the only perfect wheelchair sidewalk ramp at the new Faith Orchard parklet by Councilman Coghill's headquarters. But I can't get to the library that way due to those stupid detour signs. And it's only like feet away, but I can't get there. I make a running start, literally, to try to get up the easement, the handicap easement in front of the library, which is totally illegal. It's about 3 to 4 inches high. So every time I slam that, I'm causing cracks to the base of my chair and other parts. Solution: move those signs off that sidewalk. If I have to take this chair and ram it off the sidewalk with no cars there, I will. You didn't hear me say that, though. Thank you for this time.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Any further speakers? Seeing none, that will take us to our standing committee's agenda. The first committee of the day is Finance and Law, which is chaired by myself. We have one supplemental paper, Bill 1039.
Bill 1039, a resolution authorizing the office of the city clerk to donate $45,000 to the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That moves us to our deferred paper, Bill 677.
Bill 677, a resolution authorizing the mayor, the Office of Management and Budget, the Department of City Planning, the Department of Finance, the Department of Innovation and Performance, the Department of Public Works, the Department of Public Safety, and the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh to temporarily address the public health emergency of homelessness in the City of Pittsburgh, and to provide for policies and programs to address the lack of affordable housing and their consequent contribution to chronic homelessness as directed herein until more permanent solutions can be implemented.
Motion to hold for 4 weeks.
Can we have a brief discussion?
Sure.
I just want to, and 4 weeks is a long time. And I know I want to thank you for leading the charge with the committee, with the task force, and for all the task force members. Thank you all for serving on it. I'm just hoping that we come up with some solutions, or at least some recommendations before the end of 4 weeks.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people, depending on us.
Yeah, I could, if I could respond.
And I just want to say again, these are just recommendations. So.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just recommendations. We are working on it. It's been tough because of the holiday season, of course. 4 weeks, every time we hold this, it comes around so quickly. But I'm actually meeting with the architect of Second Avenue Commons today, and he's coming to me with some ideas. I plan to meet with the committee, I hope, before, Christmas at least, and we're working on it, I will tell you, but we do need a little more time.
No, I know, and people are saying what a great job you're doing on it, so thank you all. They're saying
Thank you.
You have a lot of information you're gathering and meeting with a lot of people, and so I think you're doing a great job. I'm worried about timeline.
No, I get it, and me too. It bothers me. I really, every time I hold it, I think, oh, we'll be finished by this time. But it's difficult with the four of us and everything else that's going on. But know this, that we're working on it.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for your work on it.
So the motion to hold 4 weeks?
Motion to hold for 4 weeks.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill will be held 4 weeks. That takes us to our new papers, Bill 1013.
Bill 1013, a resolution repealing an item in Resolution Number 318 of 2018, effective date May 14th, 2018, in order to rescind the sale.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second with discussion.
Yes. I think that's in my district, right?
Yes.
Yes, Councilman.
So there was a sidewalk program that we were trying to give a resident. There are two landowners who both kind of want the same property. If it goes to, if I continue to do this, they will have to bid each other, and it would. And I'm trying to give them time to work it out versus it go to a court where we're the highest bid will win. And so that's why, because there's two of them. We first did this, there was only, one kind of senior woman who kind of wanted this, and we were working with her, but another neighbor has gotten involved, and so this goes through, the property more likely will not be in her hands. And so I'm giving them time to work it, to try to figure out a way that they can work it out, peacefully.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Kraus?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering about the legalities of rescinding a sale.
I can't answer that question. If you want, we can hold it and get, if you want, we can get the law department to chime in.
If it's the pleasure of the body, I don't know that we've ever done this before. I'm just curious about if we're acting within our powers or not.
Let's just hold for a week and figure it out, okay?
Great, thank you.
Well, just for the record, I believe we have rescinded a sale before. But
I'm sorry.
no, I was just saying, for the record, I believe we actually have rescinded sales before. But are you motioning the whole 1 week, Reverend?
Sure. I would have to be comfortable, so motion for 1 week.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The bill will be held for 1 week. That takes us to Bill 1018.
Bill 1018, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement or agreements with Gateways for Growth for the purpose of receiving a customized research brief on immigrant and refugee communities in Pittsburgh and a welcoming network general membership.
Need a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1019.
Bill 1019, a resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Office of Management and Budget to enter into an agreement or agreements with Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund, Inc., for the purpose of receiving and spending grant funds in the amount of $70,000 to integrate banking access into the 2022-2023 City of Pittsburgh's Summer Youth Employment Program.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would love to hear more about the program. Is there anyone here to speak to it?
Ms. Williams?
You come up here.
I didn't know. You can come up to the table.
Thank you. If you could just identify yourselves when you get settled there. Identify yourself and your title for the public.
Absolutely. Felicity Williams, Deputy Chief of Staff to Mayor Gainey. Well, thank you for that question. I'm happy to talk about it a little bit more. You guys know that we have some challenges with our youth and finding ways and activities to keep them engaged, moving away from disruptive behaviors to more productive behaviors. And so one of the strategies around doing that is youth employment. And as part of our youth employment program, the city's had a long time partnership with the county, Partner for Work, supporting summer Learn and Earn, summer youth employment programs. One of the elements that we want to add to that program, we piloted a little bit this past year and look to expand and grow it this upcoming summer, is related to financial education and banking access for our youth. So they are receiving payment for their participation in the program. We want to make sure that as part of that payment that they're also getting these life skills and financial education skills to help them to continue to develop. And so that is what the program is. We are continuing to learn from what we piloted earlier this summer, and we'll build upon that working with partners for the upcoming year.
So we're talking about financial literacy skills? Do we use those words?
I was going to say, they now call it financial education, but yes, financial literacy skills, yes. And then also banking access. So the idea is to make sure that they open youth bank accounts. So some of these, depending on their age, may be non-custodial accounts. So we'll be working with banking partners in the region to create these types of programs. Some banks do not currently have non-custodial youth accounts. And then if they are older age, they are able to just, open their own accounts. We want to make sure that they're having the financial responsibility, they're getting the education along with receiving income and earnings.
So will this be kind of voluntary for the participants in the program, or is it something that is a requirement?
So that's what we're working with Partner for Work right now. We want every kid that's in our Learn and Earn program to have a requirement to get this financial education. We cannot require that they open a bank account, of course, but we want to create all of the opportunities and access for them to do so.
Okay, so it would be built into the kind of training, because they do get training before they actually rotate onto, and so that would be sometime in early June or mid-June or something like that?
Yeah, we're looking right now, there's about 12 hours that are training periods that are separate from their worksite activities through the Learn and Earn program. And so we're looking at how we plan out those 12 hours. All 12 would not necessarily be dedicated to financial education. We're looking at what other types of skills we want to make sure that our youth are getting to continue to make this program just that much more attractive and to bring more youth to it.
So we used to manage this program in-house at Parks and Rec, and one of the parts of partnering with the county was the argument that we would be able to build a kind of more of a career ladder, because that partnership with Partners for Work would bring in employment opportunities that were of a higher skill set, maybe at a bank or at a hospital or something that was more than just working in our city job opportunities. So that's what I'm imagining here, right? So you're talking about kind of if someone, especially as a participant, summer after summer, or is that an older age? What is the range? Does it just go up to 18? I can't remember now.
It actually goes up to 21.
It goes up to 21?
Yes.
So that's great.
And to your point, these are conversations that we've been having with Partner for Work, is how do we build upon, grow, and expand the Learn and Earn program. This is such a wonderful opportunity to really engage our youth and help develop skills with our youth. And so we are still in conversations with them about what that looks like. We're looking at some changes that we can adopt in the upcoming year, and looking at how we can roll in more changes, to your point, about making this a multi-year, perhaps it's year-long program where you have work in the summer, but other skill trainings. You know that we recently launched the Youth Civic Leadership Academy as filling a gap between, when there is the summer Learn and Earn opportunities. And so we're trying to continue to build that pipeline that keep our youth engaged.
Resume building, in a way,
year-round.
skill set building.
Absolutely.
I like this. One of the things that we were wary about as a council in the discussion when we approved the partnership with Partners for Work is that we would see that there was confirmation and affirmation and reporting out to council that we really are spending our dollars on just our city youth. So could you speak about how you might be reporting back? Because it's been a while that we have received a report. We've been in a pandemic, so I'm not exactly sure how it's been functioning. But So what do you anticipate? Like, how are you kind of establishing residency and also following kids through if you were going to stay in touch with them?
So we do have a process that reviews applications to confirm city residency, but it is a partnership also with the county. So the county puts in dollars to serve youth that are outside of the city and the county. The city of Pittsburgh puts in dollars as well, and we are also in negotiations around what the new MOUs will look like for those partnerships. So looking at how we do reporting, tracking, metrics, all of those things are conversations that are currently unfolding. So certainly we'll take your comments into consideration and making sure that we're doing those things.
And as a city council, I think we probably said so at the time, but we'll say it again. I'll say it again on my own behalf, that while we want to be sure that our city money is not being used for another municipality, because we are a municipality, It doesn't make sense to me that the county money should exclude city residents. Because if the county is covering the cost for 129 other municipalities' youth to participate, I don't know why they would exclude the city of Pittsburgh, because we are also county residents. So it does look like we're left out of shared county resources. So I'll just say that once.
Yeah.
You don't need to
We're all diving into all of that stuff now, gearing up for this upcoming summer. So
appreciate it. I think that's all I have. Thank you so much for your answers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And actually, Councilwoman Gross asked some of the things I was going to ask about the reporting back, but not only the reporting back, but the part with the county and what they're contributing to the city of Pittsburgh. I hear that we're putting money in, but I think there's an election coming up for county exec, and I think that's going to be one of the things that's going to be important to me on who I support is whether or not they recognize that the city of Pittsburgh is part of the county and that they're willing to contribute to the city of Pittsburgh. So I'll just say that part. But the reporting part, I would also like to get a list of our city residents and how we're serving them. But I do want to thank the mayor's office for expanding this and doing this work. I think it's really good. I think you're doing a lot of good things there with the youth. And I also want to thank, I think it was Councilman Lavelle and Councilman Burgess who expanded, who requested the employment program in the first place be expanded. So I think there's a lot of people working together to address the issues of the youth in the city. So I just want to thank you all for your work. But I do want to know the number of city residents actually served.
absolutely.
Thank you.
We can get you that information.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here today. I agree. I think this is wonderful that we're doing this and participating. And so I have two questions. One is, I guess, a request or I don't know what it is. The hardest part about getting feedback, on this type of work is to kind of almost prove the causation, right? Like the direct link between this and, say, a decrease in violence, or this, or any other kind of engagement work and the positive outcomes that we want to see around the city. But do you have thoughts about how you can either like us ourselves as a city with the amazing data analysts we have in public safety and other departments, or working with an external partner to get that sort of even a correlation of like, okay, we've been doing this X, Y, and Z for the last few years, and what we've seen is we don't know exactly the cause of it, whether it's violence interruption or whether it's this or whether it's that. How can we, look at the results in sort of a more holistic way? Because I know that the office is so focused on intersectional work. So I don't know if you're even able to answer that at this point, or if you're thinking about that.
Yeah, I would say those are definitely things that we're thinking about when we talk about, what is the data collection that we want to see? What is the reporting that we want to see? How can we use that information to help inform our continued growth and improvement in these programs? Looking at, making sure that we are targeting the youth that we know are the subject focus area, and making sure that they are brought into the fold again for these programs, that they have access and opportunities to them. So we're working on an outreach plan to make sure that we are getting that outreach done to neighborhoods and communities. Partner for Work has identified neighborhoods and communities where they have had low participation previously. We can line that map up with what are considered hot spots or areas of concern or areas of need, oftentimes is the way it is described, the different breakdowns. So we can line those maps up and try to, make sure that we're making those connections and then use the data that we get to inform us.
Yeah, and maybe it's even as much that as it is about also collecting qualitative data, right? Which can be as important as quantitative data. So
absolutely
great. My second point was around Fund My Future and whether this is integrated into the financial empowerment, right? Like if people are setting up an account, or you're urging them to, also making them aware of the benefits of savings or 529 account.
So that has not been, at least in the pilot of this work, but doesn't mean that it's not something that we can't connect to future initiatives.
Great. Okay. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before going on to the second round, I would only add that as you all were identifying those target areas, that it would probably also make sense to have a conversation with the group violence intervention workers regarding the youth that they're intercepting to ensure that they're folded into the program. Second round, Council President?
I was just going to ask, do you know how many people how many youth in the city of Pittsburgh are actually eligible for the program total?
For the Learn and Earn program?
Yes.
I don't have how many are actually eligible. Last year, there were over 3,000 applications I know that came in, and about 1,545 youth were accepted into the program. One of the ways that we landed that number was because the pay rate was increased. We wanted to, again, as we don't want the program to ever try to compete with, you could go out and get a market, an opportunity or a job on the market, but we do want it to be more attractive to youth. And so we did increase the rates there. And so what we're looking for at 2023 is of the fact that we had that gap of, about half of the youth that weren't able to be accepted into the program, how do we expand the program to make sure that we capture all of the youth who are eligible to be accepted into the program?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We need a motion to approve the invoices.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Invoices are approved. Need a motion to approve the interdepartmental transfers.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Transfers are approved. Need a motion to approve the P cards.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? P cards are approved. That takes us to Public Safety Services Committee, which is chaired by Councilman Kraus. We have one new paper, Bill 1017.
Bill 1017, resolution amending Resolution Number 453 of 2002, providing for an amended lease for the Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Police Headquarters located at 1203 Western Avenue, extending the term 6 more years and providing for the payment thereof.
Need a motion?
Need a motion?
Sorry, I was muted. Motion to approve, brief discussion, please.
Second.
Discussion, Councilman Kraus?
Thank you. I'm ultimately going to motion to hold 1 week. I had a extensive conversation with Deputy Mayor Pollock yesterday. I'm going to ask for a briefing for council members as well, too, because of the length and the terms and the complexity of this agreement and what it would mean to continue it. So with that, I'm going to motion for a 1 week hold requested by Deputy Mayor Pollock, and also ask to schedule a briefing for members.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill will be held, you said 1 week, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Bill will be held 1 week. That now takes us to our Public Works Committee, which is chaired by Councilman Coghill. We have one deferred paper, Bill 989.
Bill 989, resolution providing for an agreement with CSXT for engineering work on the Fraser Street Swinburne Bridge Replacement Project and providing for the payment of the costs thereof not to exceed $20,020.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Councilman.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm going to abstain.
One abstention. Affirmative recommendation.
Oh, wait.
I wanted to see what the councilwoman-elect wanted to do, too. She good with it?
Can I change that? I'd like to motion, Bruce, at the request of our incoming counselor, Barbara Warwick, I would like to request a motion to hold for a week. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, so
we need,
Mr. Chair, can you
need a motion
allow an
to,
interrogatory?
well, we voted to approve, so we need a motion to rescind the final, motion to rescind your motion to approve.
A motion to rescind my motion to approve, and then we can open up for
Second.
conversation.
Second.
correct? Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
So I need to rescind my motion to second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill is back open on the table.
Okay.
Councilman
I would like to make a
Coghill.
motion to hold for 1 week.
Second.
But I need discussion, please.
second
I
on
want
the motion to
discussion too,
hold.
please.
Discussion.
I'm
Councilman
representing
Kraus.
the area.
Yeah, thank you. Although we don't do discussion on a holder, did we change that? Anyway, this is, I'm happy to support that. I'm just asking for the courtesy of consideration in that the complexity of this bridge is that it splits between right down the middle of it. It splits between 2 council districts. And so I represent this as well too. And I'm just asking for the courtesy of consideration when these kinds of decisions are made. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Council President?
Thank you. And I will say that while we're waiting for the councilwoman-elect to be elected, I still represent that area too. And I know that she has a meeting scheduled to address the issues that her constituents brought to her. But that was one of the reasons. I know she has a meeting scheduled with Mayor Gainey. So I wanted to make sure that she had that opportunity to have that conversation before any other decisions were made. And I hear what you're saying, that you need to be included, Councilman.
Thank you. Councilman Coghill.
No, Councilman Kraus, I just wanted to apologize to you. Now I remember we were just talking about this yesterday, and it did not dawn on me that this was the same bridge. And certainly we should have ran it by you. So sorry about that.
Thank you.
Second round, Mr. Chair.
Second round, Councilman Kraus.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Councilman Coghill. Yes, there is a meeting scheduled to discuss. I will be in attendance in that meeting as well, too. Thank you.
Thank you. You made a motion to hold 1 week?
Motion to hold for 1 week.
Okay. All
Second.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The bill will be held 1 week. That takes us to our new paper, Bill 1014.
Bill 1014, resolution authorizing the mayor and/or the director of the Department of Finance and/or the director of the Department of Public Works on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to execute as necessary an instrument or instruments entitled Preservation Agreement, a 10-year covenant to ensure the maintenance and preservation of the architectural and historical characteristics of the Hartzell Monument in Allegheny Commons Park in favor of the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission, which has funded the restoration of the monument by the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy for the benefit of the public.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That moves us to Human Resources Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Strasburger. We have one new paper, Bill 1020.
Bill 1020, a resolution amending Resolution 211 of 2022, which authorized the mayor and the director of the Department of Human Resources and Civil Service to enter into amended professional services agreements or contracts with Ceridian Human Capital Management, Inc., by extending the contract through 2025 at an additional cost not to exceed $1,001,000.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Discussion, Councilwoman?
Thank you. Because this is a multi-year extension and more than $1 million, I wanted to just state that this is an extension of the original contract for a payroll system, and it's coming to the table because of a negotiation for a reduced cost. I didn't know if members had specific questions, but I wanted to just state that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all
But
those...
I just want, did you say it's an extension of the contract? It's not?
It's an extension of a contract
It's
until
just to negotiate.
2025.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
One abstain.
One abstention. Affirmative recommendation. That takes us to Land Use and Economic Development Committee, which is chaired by Councilman Wilson. Our first deferred paper is Bill 592.
Bill 592, an ordinance amending the Pittsburgh Code, Title IX Zoning Code, Article 1, Zoning Map, Article 2, Base Zoning District, Chapter 904, Mixed Use Districts, Article 4, Planning Districts, Chapter 908, Public Realm Districts, Article 5, Use Regulations, Chapter 911, Primary Uses, Section 911.02, Use Table, and Section 911.04, Use Standards. Article 6, Development Standards, Chapter 914, Parking, Loading, and Access, Chapter 915, Environmental Performance Standards, and Chapter 919, Signs. And Article 8, Review and Enforcement, Chapter 922, Development Review Procedures, and Article 9, Chapter 926, Definitions, to create 3 new base zoning districts and other zoning amendments.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Second with discussion, please.
Councilman?
I'm going to defer to Councilman Kraus.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Wilson. Members or perhaps the clerk. Madam Clerk, can you tell me, please, is there an amendment on the table for this bill?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, so I believe it is the wish of Councilwoman Strasburger, Councilman Lavelle, Councilman Kraus as representatives of the Oakland neighborhood to amend by substitution at this moment in time.
Is there a
So that's a
second?
motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilwoman Gross?
So just to be clear, this is the yellow amendment in front of us is the.
This is the full
Oh, I was going
bill.
to say does not look like.
This is the full amendment for any member who wants to see it, but we didn't want to print 200 pages worth of.
Okay, so what we
every
have in
member.
front of us is what, like the first
The
and last
summary.
pages or something?
Sort of the summary.
Is a summary, and so all of the text on our yellow single sheet is new text or strikeout, is amended text.
Check it here. Yes, this is the summary of all the more detailed amendments that you'll find in the full bill. So these are all the changes being made
At this time.
at this time.
So does that mean that there will be more amendments than this amendment by substitution if it's just at this time?
There will
Mr.
be,
Chair, will you allow
Council-
me to answer the Councilwoman's question?
sure.
Thank you. Councilwoman, thank you. It's become a little more complex than the three of us might have thought it would be. At this point in time, the motion we're requesting is to amend the changes that have been made to this point in time. And then we're going to ask Deputy Director Dash and our zoning administrator, Corey Lehman, to come to the table to instruct us as to what our responsibility is at this point in time to either move this bill or to hold this bill for further discussion. I hope that helps.
Right, I mean, so I've been looking at them so when we walked in the room, we found this on the table. And so I've just been, reviewing it as we've been doing voting on other legislation. And it looks substantive to me, right? And I think that's the threshold. If it's substantive, then it has to go back to Planning Commission. Voting now to amend by substitution, trying to be, I don't represent any part of Oakland. I haven't been involved in all of these negotiations. Certainly, I've had to try to move zoning legislation through council, and I appreciate council members respecting, having greater knowledge about all of the amendments are at the table, and I do acknowledge all of that. So, but I just want to be clear. So if we're voting, you're asking for a vote to amend by substitution now, have a discussion, and then we'll see
Probably hold.
where we are. Okay.
And I don't
Okay,
believe
that
these are.
makes me a lot more comfortable. It was just very confusing, so I appreciate the answers to the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger?
Thank you. I might have more to say later, but just because it has been brought up by Councilwoman Gross, I wanted to make it clear that it is our three, Oakland representative intention to amend by substitution, which, from our understanding, is not substantive enough at this time to require a return to the Planning Commission.
I want to hear that.
And that then we can hold,
I want them to.
after a conversation, as Councilman Kraus indicated. But the intention, I think, is to motion to hold for further discussion and possibly further amendment.
Sorry, will you finish, Madam President?
Thank you. I think that, I know everyone's been doing a lot of work on this, including the mayor's office, and I want to thank them for their work. But I want to say that this is really significant, and there's a lot here. And as much as I appreciate Andrew Dash and Corey Lehman, I also would like to hear whatever they say, supported by our law department, so that we're making right decisions here. But I also, there's so much here. I'll probably just abstain today until we have the briefing and have an opportunity to learn a little bit more about it all and how it affects the entire Oakland.
Thank you. So all those in favor of a motion to amend by substitution, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The bill is now amended. Discussion on the...
Mr. Chair, thank you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Do we have our zoning administrator, Mr. Lehman here, and Deputy Director Dash?
We do. They're coming to the table now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mass Law Department did come to.
Good morning. Thank you. If you would, just for the record, identify yourselves.
Yes, Andrew Dash. I'm the Deputy Director of the Department of City Planning.
Corey Lehman, Assistant Director, Zoning Administrator.
Thank you very much. I apologize not being there this morning on such a complex topic and a packed agenda. Many of you know I'm in physical therapy for a torn rotator cuff, and I had physical therapy this morning again, and I don't come out of there feeling all that great. So just everyone knows that's why I'm at home this morning. We had very lengthy, late conversations, Councilwoman Strasburger, Councilman Lavelle, myself, and there was some communication with our zoning administrator, Corey Lehman, and some questions we have for our solicitor, as well as Deputy Dash. Here's what we're struggling with at this moment in time. As we have gone through this process of fulfilling our obligation of hosting a public hearing within the time required by statute, we did begin the hearing on September the 14th, and then we recessed so as to take in further consideration, comment from multiple stakeholders, and understanding the complexity of the topic that's before us. We wanted to make sure that we gave everyone an opportunity to do so. Reconvened the public hearing on Monday and concluded that. This is where we're struggling at this point in time. It has been my understanding and my I believed I was being taught in this process, that we are under a obligation to complete our duty here within a certain time frame, and that time frame was to be this coming December the 13th would meet our legal obligation to complete our obligation to bring this recommendation from the Planning Commission to fruition. Then late last night, I learned that perhaps that is not what our obligation is, and that possibly the clock for the 90-day time frame in which council is obligated to meet its obligation either began when we started the public hearing on September the 14th or when we finished the public hearing on December the 5th. And so now, rightfully so, Councilman Lavelle, Councilwoman Strasburger, myself, were confused as to why we have been given one recommendation and now are receiving a second recommendation as to what our obligation is. So I don't mean to be prickly here, but I'm a little frustrated that we are perhaps not receiving the kind of information that we're supposed to be receiving. And so I believe and I appreciate Councilwoman Strasburger's diligence in communicating and also bringing this to the attention of the solicitor. Now, I have not talked to the solicitor about this personally. I believe ultimately she'll come into the conversation and advise us as well, but for the benefit of members so that they understand sort of what we're doing here, we amended by substitution today. So if there was a possibility that we indeed are under a clock to complete our work by December the 13th, that the bill would indeed be amended with what we have had before us, what was garnered through the process of public hearing, and we could meet our obligation. If that is not the case, we still have a bill before us on the table that could possibly go out for further consideration now that we think we may have extended time to complete our obligation. Now, that's a lot of information I put out there, and I probably didn't do it in the best chronological order, but with that, whoever feels most comfortable beginning, either Deputy Dash or Mr. Lehman, I'm welcoming your comment.
Thank you, Councilman. Yeah, just to clarify, there are two timing mechanisms in the zoning code in Chapter 922.05 regarding zoning code legislation. One is a 120-day clock for there to be a public hearing from the date of the Planning Commission action. And when we talked about this in the hearing on Monday, my commentary and my understanding was the question was regarding that clock. That clock had been extended by zoning or by the planning department as applicant a couple of times, and that clock, I believe, is the one that we're talking about that would expire on December 13th. But the hearing did conclude, and so that's the beginning of the 90-day clock, which is 90 days for City Council to then act after the hearing. And was able to confirm with law that clock starts at the conclusion of the hearing.
So then Corey, your definition of act is for us to take a final vote?
I'm here to speak to and interpret or administer the zoning code. That feels like a question more appropriate for law.
Okay. And forgive me for not being present. Is the solicitor with us this morning?
She is.
She is?
Yes.
Oh, good. May we please have Solicitor Kubiak as well? Thank you. Solicitor, I apologize. I didn't realize you were present. I would have called you up earlier.
Fine. Thank you. Good morning, Councilman Krause.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Solicitor, I apologize that we're sort of dumping this all in your lap at this late hour, but we're diligent in our work, and we want to make certain that we are meeting our obligations and doing our due diligence and making certain that we are within keeping with the law. So, Solicitor, it is your understanding as well that under the statutes under which we're operating that the time frame now by which council must complete action on this bill, that 90-day period began on, I'm going to say Tuesday, the 6th, as opposed to Monday, or I guess it would be Monday the 5th, because that was the day we concluded the public hearing. Is that your understanding?
That is correct.
Okay. And then, Solicitor, thank you again. Then would you offer that the definition of complete is that, or finish or work, meaning that council has to take a final vote up or down?
That's correct.
That would be the definition of that?
Yes. The council would either approve or deny it. Otherwise, at the expiration of that 90 days, it would be a deemed denial.
Right. Meaning that council failed to act, and so then it is assumed to be denied by council.
Correct.
So the 90, forgive me please, I should have done my math, but the 90-day then from the completion of December 5, I'm doing very rough, would be January, February, March 5, give or take, right in that time frame would be the day by which we must complete. But we are not obligated to take that full 90 days to complete. If it were the wish of the council today, we could preliminarily vote, pass it on Tuesday if we chose to do so. And I'm not offering that we should by any means. I'm just saying that the obligation is not to keep the 90 days completely open, only that we must act within that 90-day period.
Correct.
Okay. I'm not an attorney, solicitor. I'm trying to sort of wade through this and understand it myself as well. So, and for the very short notice of having you be here physically present at Chamber and making those accommodations, I greatly appreciate that you made the effort to do that. So with that, members, where we are right now, with the advice from planning, zoning, and our law department, is that we have a we have a completed bill before us, having considered all the communications that we have received to date. But I do believe it would be the wish of myself, Councilwoman Strasburger, and Councilman Lavelle to continue to take input to see if there are any further additions or subtractions that could benefit the zoning amendments you see before us. So I do believe that ultimately the wish or the will of us will be to ask for a hold so we can continue to take input. But with that, I will relinquish the floor because I'm sure other members will have either question or comment. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks you everybody for your patience through this very, very difficult consideration before us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Strasburger?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, thank you all for answering our questions and helping us confirm the timeline that we're currently on. We have significantly more time than I think we thought we had just a couple of days ago. And given the comments that we heard from stakeholders in Oakland, even if some of the comments we heard were contradictory to one another, I recognize the amount of time that our planning staff have taken to walk our stakeholders through the changes from, well, not even the changes and amendments, but the zoning text for Oakland up until the Planning Commission vote, and then from the Planning Commission vote to present day. That said, I still think there's work to be done, and I am volunteering myself to help to do that work, to mollify some of the concerns and really to make sure that the third largest downtown in the Commonwealth that we're getting it right, that we're really getting the zoning right for this very critical downtown center where there's a lot of interest and a lot of potential development and a lot of potential impacts to residents. So I am grateful for the time that we have to continue to work, and I'm here for the work, and I think the structure of what that looks like going forward is forthcoming, but I appreciate the work and the diligence of everyone who has put in that time, both city staff, my fellow council members, and the stakeholders who have provided comment.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilwoman Gross?
I appreciate it. So I'm just remembering working on the expansion of inclusionary zoning to Bloomfield and Polish Hill, and it was unclear whether other neighborhoods or footprints would want to join in. And so we were trying to figure out kind of like, well, when do we put this on the table? It was really urgent that the stakeholders in Bloomfield and Polish Hill really wanted us to go ahead and put the legislative language on the table for the expansion, but other people were still kind of like chewing on it, deliberating, and so this was the open question that we had, like, well, if we put the legislation on the table now, what happened, like how much can we amend it later without kind of having to put the planning department through kind of double processes, or having it come back to council, but then having to go back to planning commission. And even after we started, especially, so it's like, okay, we've started, we've got the legislation on the table, it's going through planning commission. How much change, either in the map or in the technical specifications of the zoning requirements within the same map? That, for example, what if we raised the number of units, right, from 10% to 20%, like some people wanted? What if we raised or changed the AMI? Instead of being at 50%, what if we took it down to 30%? What if there was some hybrid that other, developments are now kind of, approaching or proposing, like, well, we'll do 10% at 80% AMI, but then we'll do another 10% at 50% AMI. So how much can we amend it? And I thought, for kind of all of the examples I just gave, that it would be substantive change and have to go back to Planning Commission. That was the advice I thought I was given. And so when I look at this number of changes, and this isn't the giant packet, it would I think we would be a little less stressed if we just realized that, sure, we can suggest amendments, but that's what Planning Commission exists for. So I don't know if it's kind of an open-ended question, if anyone has any thoughts.
I guess I can speak a little bit to substantive amendments to the extent that that's not a defined term in the code. It's not something for staff to determine. I think my general understanding is that if we're talking about an overlay, like a mapped area, and the change would be to expand that area to areas that hadn't been noticed and hadn't been a part of the initial map amendment, that would be a pretty clear-cut substantive change that would go back to the Planning Commission. In the case where it's changing provisions or requirements within legislation, there isn't, it's not something that I can determine. Certainly, there is always the option to send a bill back to the Planning Commission for their continued review and recommendation.
All right, well, so I'll just speak personally that, I like to do my homework, and so I do appreciate that members are, going to be holding. We will be getting a briefing. Because we had a briefing on the plan before these changes, and as members have acknowledged, it's an area represented by 3 members, but it's the 3rd largest employment destination in the state of Pennsylvania, and these amendments will make a difference in what is built and how Oakland changes into the future. So I guess that's all the questions that I have right now, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I will simply both thank the planning and zoning staff for your work over these many years now of trying to bring this to fruition. And I'll also thank my colleagues for their willingness to try to get this as right as possible. I think at the end of the day, we probably will not make most happy, which is probably the art of compromise. But I do thank them for their willingness to try to get as many parties comfortable with this bill as humanly possible. How long would you like to hold the bill, Councilwoman?
I would propose 4 weeks, but
I'm sorry.
Councilwoman Strasburg is proposing 4 weeks, Councilman.
Which takes us right into the first week of January, gets us through. Why don't we say something more like 6 weeks to get us into the heart of being back and reorganized and ready to hit the ground? What do you think?
I think that sounds wonderful. Okay. You want to make the motion, Councilman?
Councilwoman Strasburger, was your motion?
Motion to hold. Thank you. Motion to hold 6 weeks.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Abstain.
Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Affirmative recommendation. Bill will be held 6 weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That takes us to Bill 661.
Bill 661, resolution accepting a new street name, Woodring Court, in the 23rd Ward of the City of Pittsburgh, as per recommendation by the City of Pittsburgh Addressing Committee. The following street name was approved by CPAC in June 2022. The name listed in this ordinance shall be made official in accordance with the Pittsburgh Code, Title IV, Public Places and Property, Chapter 420, Uniform Street Naming and Addressing.
Motion to hold 4 weeks.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill be held 4 weeks. Bill 1002.
Bill 1002, a resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of permits, licenses, and inspections to enter into an amended agreement or agreements with Dapolonia for emergency geotechnical services to assist in response to land movement and landslide incidents. The agreement will add another year to the existing agreement term and shall be at an overall cost not to exceed $1,500,000.
Motion to approve discussion.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you can see, we have a yellow sheet coming around. That yellow sheet is the amendment to this bill. I'm going to allow, that to take place, the amendment to be passed out. But in that meantime, Director, could you come to the table? So as members are receiving the amendment, could you walk us through that? State your name for the record. And
Good morning, councilors. Sarah Kinter, Director of the Department of Permits, Licenses, and Inspections. Before you is an amendment to a bill that was held last week for support services for PLI in regards to remediation for landslides. The previous bill was written in 2018 and it was poorly written, and I apologize for that. So this should be more descriptive as to the services and the actual costs borne by the department to remediate landslides. The original bill had a cap of $1.5 million. We're not spending anywhere near $1.5 million on landslide remediation work. And you can see there's an accompanying letter that provides what we have spent since 2019, which totals about $180,000. So we are asking for an amending and extension of this contract with Dapolonia. They perform several services for us. They perform soil and site assessments for landslide cases that are in the city of Pittsburgh. They also assist us with providing and creating construction drawings for landslide remediation work that we are performing as we demolish condemned properties that are on landslide-prone areas in the city.
thanks for explaining that. I don't have any questions if other members do.
Councilwoman Gross?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Director, because we had some discussion at the table about, how are we treating different landslides, right? And what are our kind of legal boundaries, but so that we all have a common understanding so we can make choices, right? Sometimes we have administrative choices that really aren't the legally required, that we could go further, but we're not because of costs or some other kind, very legitimate considerations. So landslides are increasing. I think we all can agree on that. And sometimes they are affecting public property, usually roadways, and that the city kind of comes in and is the main actor and covering all the costs for building, a retaining wall on a roadway. An example in my district is right now El Paso, where we're building a 300-foot retaining wall. And that's in DPW's jurisdiction, right? But other times they're on private property only. And we've lived through this as well in my district, and you've lived through it with us with having condemned property. I had a family that was out of their house, a family with kids who weren't allowed to even step foot in their house for 2 years because it might fall off the hill. And it involved many private parcels. But in that case, could you kind of describe to us what your role is and how you understand the city's obligations but limits?
Yeah, thank you for the
Thank
question.
you.
I appreciate it. So PLI's role, part of our role is to enforce the construction code, and we also have a role to perform code enforcement in the city of Pittsburgh. So where we find that there are unsafe conditions due to land movement, we would issue citations to private owners and take them through the process to get to abatement. Ultimately, it's the owner's choice to decide what that abatement looks like. Sometimes it's demolition, sometimes it's building walls, sometimes it's land regrading, and to work with an engineer that can help them design a solution for whatever their parcel looks like. At the time that they come up with that solution, they would come through the the construction permitting process for our review and approval. PLI is also responsible for demolishing unsafe structures in the city of Pittsburgh. Some of those unsafe structures are in landslide-prone areas, or they are structures that are experiencing landslide conditions. When we demolish, we need to be held to our own standards of construction and demolition to ensure that when we are demolishing, we're doing it in an appropriate way with an engineered solution.
So in a situation like I've seen once, maybe twice in my district, that the landslide is occurring basically in people's backyards, and there's no right-of-way. We even dug through archives to make sure there wasn't still a paper street back there, that we could, be part of the solution on public property. Is there a legal, in your knowledge, to the extent of your knowledge, which may not cover here, and I don't need to have the discussion at the table because I'm supportive of this contract, but is there a prohibition to the city participating in remediating or even covering the cost of landslides on private property?
It's a good question. I don't have the answer to that question.
And so, yeah, it's still an open question that I kind of keep asking various entities because, again, we're experiencing this more. And so it's impacting more and more residents, but I almost feel like there's probably a role the city should play, because I just don't think that all of these things are so isolated. I almost feel like if that's an unstable hillside and one parcel is being affected, it's maybe just a matter of time for the other ones are as well, right? And so it just kind of behooves us and to make sure that we have, we know what's happening geologically or hydrologically. I don't actually know the right vocabulary here. I feel like this is like an area that council needs to increase its knowledge on, and then have further discussions about what are the limits of our jurisdiction, and are we doing as much as we maybe should be doing in this area to participate in making sure that we have stable, secure hillsides that aren't landslide prone and threatening the kind of stability of the housing on those hillsides. So that's a big topic. So I'll stop and leave it there. But I've brought it up in other discussions that, it was, I think Councilwoman Rudiak proposed that we add a soil hydrologist in-house. I brought up the same topic about how much we're spending for out-of-house expertise and subcontracting around this area in the DOMI budget hearing yesterday. It's just something that's on my mind. So I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, Council President?
Thank you. I'm just curious. Will an RFP go out for this initially?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And it says on this agreement that they provide expert testimony of properties. And I'm wondering, do you use them when we take someone to court?
Yes, correct.
So were they involved in the one on Greenleaf Street where the house collapsed and we cited them, and yet the magistrate did not issue a fine?
I don't know. I could look that up for you, Councilwoman. I apologize.
Yeah, I want to know that.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Greenleaf Street.
Greenleaf, yeah.
Any further discussion? All right, so you made mention of the amendment,
yeah.
Councilman, but can you formally make a motion to amend?
Yeah, motion to amend.
Thank you. Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any further discussion on the bill as amended, Madam President?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, on the amendment. That's what I was saying.
Any further discussion on the bill as amended? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Abstain on the amended.
One
bill
abstention.
Until I find that answer. Thank you.
Affirmative recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you. That moves us to our Urban Recreation Committee, which is chaired by Councilman Burgess. Our one deferred paper is Bill 860.
Bill 860, resolution instructing the Director of Parks and Recreation and the Department of Public Works to amend the rules and regulations for sports field permits to provide priority use to athletic organizations comprised of City of Pittsburgh residents.
I defer to the president.
Thank you, Reverend. Motion to hold for 1 week, Councilman Wilson?
Second.
1 week, please.
Second it. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Bill be held 1 week. That takes us to our one new paper,
Thank you.
Bill 1012.
Bill 1012, a resolution authorizing the mayor, director of Parks and Recreation, and director of finance to enter on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh into an amended sublease agreement or agreements with the Boys and Girls Club of Western Pennsylvania for continued operation of the Lawrenceville Senior Center located within Leslie Park, as originally authorized by resolution numbers 55 and 91 of 2011 at an overall cost of $198,000 and with a term expiring March 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That takes us to Innovation Performance Asset Management Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Strasburger. We have one recommitted paper, Bill 997.
Bill 997, a resolution amending Resolution 644 of 2020, authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Innovation and Performance on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to adopt an existing government contract and enter into any related agreements or agreements and amendments thereto with Carasoft Technology Corp. To provide Google Cloud subscription services and add Google Assured workloads to provide secure storage for sensitive data on the city's cloud platform at an amount not to exceed $4,282,824.38.
Motion to approve. Discussion.
Second.
Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was what I would consider to be mostly a technical amendment, but because of the amount of language and the additional cost, with 76,000 additional in 2022 and 240,000 additional in 2023, I did want to recommit it rather than make a voice amendment yesterday. So if folks do have questions, we do have the director here, but mostly just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That takes us to our new papers, beginning with Bill 1021.
Bill 1021, resolution authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Innovation and Performance to enter an agreement or agreements and amendments thereto with Computronics USA, Inc. for 3 years to handle day-to-day maintenance and support of One Stop Pittsburgh, including to address any defects that may arise with the system and to define service level agreements for resolution time, meeting the needs of the city of Pittsburgh at a sum not to exceed $1,224,482.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1022.
Bill 1022, a resolution amending Resolution 375 of 2021, authorizing the mayor and the director of the Department of Innovation and Performance and the director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure on behalf of the city of Pittsburgh to enter into an amended agreement or agreements or amendments thereto with Cohen Law Group and CTC Technology and Energy for renegotiation of the city's cable franchise agreements with Comcast and Verizon, and for consultation on development of fiber and wireless telecommunications assets and policy in an amount not to exceed $591,213.70.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. Bill 1023.
Bill 1023, a resolution authorizing the City of Pittsburgh to extend a contract or agreement or agreements with Pittsburgh Community Television for public access television services by extending the term of the agreement until December 31st, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That moves us to Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, which is chaired by Councilwoman Gross. Bill 1016.
Bill 1016, a resolution authorizing the approval of the 2023 Housing Opportunity Fund Annual Allocation Plan, all council districts.
Motion to approve, discussion?
Second.
Second.
I would like to, wait, we're on the Housing Opportunity Fund bill, right? Just busy reading something else. This is the Housing Opportunity Fund bill, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to bring the URA to the table because I just wanted them to expound a little bit. If you all would come up, I apologize for having too much reading material in front of me.
Good morning, David Geiger, Senior Advisor, URA.
Thank you.
My name is Evan Miller. I'm the Acting Director of Housing Lending at the URA.
Thank you all. We have been approving these now. It feels like the 4th or 5th year for the Housing Opportunity Fund. Is this the 5th?
This will be the 6th annual allocation.
This is the 6th annual allocation of $10 million. And thank you. And I don't believe that we've ever amended any of the proposed allocations, which is great. But there's some of the line items here that I wanted to have you elaborate a little bit on. The first one is on the top. Yeah, we have the same table. I just wanted to make sure it's the same table. The rental gap financing. I wanted to give you a minute to expound on the demand that you're seeing and hearing from the community, because we've been through the pandemic. Council allocated, I think, $17 million so far of federal funds for emergency rental assistance program. And so kind of like, what are you seeing, and is all of that ERAP expended to the best of your knowledge? It's kind of a separate, we've tasked Action Housing and the county collaboration with that. But so tell us what you're hearing.
Sure. I would like to just make one clarification that the rental gap program supports the development of rental housing.
Oh,
if you're
thank
talking
you.
about like
It says it
rental
right
assistance.
there, building more affordable housing. Do we have any rent payment assistance
Yes,
in
that
the
would
program?
be the housing stabilization program.
So the housing stabilization program. All right, let's rent one row beneath that. So it's a total of 555,000.
550,000.
550,000. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have seen since ERAP ended, we work with DHS very closely with this program, that demand is rising for this program. I believe that as recently as Monday, we were informed there were 400 people on the waiting list for either rental assistance or legal assistance, which we also fund down lower in the table here. So with the drop-off of ERAP, we are expecting there to still be very high utilization of these programs.
That was actually my second question, so I'm glad you brought it up. So council members will see kind of in the middle of the table, there's legal assistance program, LAP, and why don't you go ahead and describe that for members so that I don't misrepresent it again?
Sure. So the legal assistance program helps both renters and homeowners in any type of, in getting representation for any type of dispute that they might be party to with either, if they're a homeowner, perhaps it's tangled title issues or forbearance of their mortgage. If it's a renter, a lot of times there's disputes with landlords over things like potential evictions, going to the magistrate's office to straighten that out. So we work with a handful of service providers throughout the city that actually provide representation to these people. And they've begun to expand it. I believe in October they launched the Lawyer of the Day program, where these attorneys are sort of scouting out the schedules at these magistrates' office and being present to represent people. So there's a growing need for this program, and we see our service providers trying to account for that.
So yeah, I really appreciate that. So I think this is what council has been hoping to see, and so I'm really appreciative that the URA and the Housing Opportunity Fund are developing this and allocating some funds to it. So we've been talking about how do we be more responsive when people have these needs, and where are all of the places that we could be kind of getting almost kind of, deploying people face to face to help our residents through the needs that they're experiencing. And it's a tough role for us, right? We basically do the basics, fire, EMS, roads, parks. And so it's a little bit more of what we found ourselves having to do over these last few years of providing, in this case, not social services, but legal services. Again, we're partnering, but we're providing the revenue, the cash for the program. So I just wanted to highlight that for members. I think it's the right thing to do. I'm supportive. We maybe even need more than we're allocating here. But I just wanted to highlight that this is something, again, that there's a gap out there in the support systems for our residents. And we're adjusting and trying to fill those gaps, even if it's not all the, we can't fill the whole gap. So I know that, we've heard from members that we want to support people in home ownership, that we want to provide more gap funding for new affordable housing development, and so we see that here. Could you maybe talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics with Councilwoman Smith, which is the limited equity housing co-ops? I've been asking the URA this whole year, let's make sure that any of the kinds of financing programs that we have aren't by negligence excluding collective ownership. So could you speak to that? Yeah,
absolutely. And we appreciate you pushing us on this topic, because it is a growing demand here in the city, and we're hearing more about it. So as it stands right now, we have several changes that are slated for what's shown here as the for sale development program, to expand that program's ability to fund different types of housing than what we've traditionally seen, which is just the standard sale to an end buyer. And one of those changes will be accounting for limited equity housing co-ops.
Okay, so that's the program in the middle. I apologize for keep stumbling over them. They all kind of vaguely sound the same as each other on the row. So I almost wish they were like numbered, like a menu or something. So the for sale development program, and that's for construction?
Yes, typically.
It does say building more for sale affordable housing, and that's at $900,000, right? And so you would be kind of amending your own administrative policies so that it would not exclude collective ownership.
Yes.
Right. And so what about purchase programs?
Sure. So that would be our down payment and closing cost assistance program, which is the third item down on the first page here. There are, we'd have to review the guidelines to see that it's truly excluded. I'm actually unsure if someone possibly has purchased shares of a limited equity cooperative using the down payment program, but I do think it's a very fair point that if we're going to support it through the brick and mortar construction, we should ensure that people are able to access it with our other down payment programs.
And then the biggest line on the chart is the $3.8 million for the rental gap financing that I was mentioning earlier mistakenly. And so that would be only for rent, but not for kind of rent to own or buying in for shares.
As it stands right now, typically it is for traditional rental housing. We have seen certain projects come through and get funded with the Housing Opportunity Fund where perhaps at the expiration of the initial low-income housing tax credit compliance period, which is 15 years, it flips to home ownership and everyone who lives in those units is given the opportunity to purchase them. That is allowable under the program. And I think if a developer were to come with some type of rent-to-own initiative and it fit into our program guidelines, we would certainly be all ears for it. I mean, the Housing Opportunity Fund itself is, compared to a lot of federal sources, a bit more flexible and gives us the latitude to make decisions like that based on what our policy needs are.
So when you change these program guidelines or develop them, do you have to come back to the advisory, or you do that in collaboration with the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board?
Yes, we would take those changes to the advisory board for their review. We would also take it to the URA board to get approval, and also just to distribute the message publicly that there's new programs launching or new initiatives within programs that are now available.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'll continue to work with you on those changes. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. And thank you for your work. I want to actually also acknowledge Megan Winters, who serves for District 2 on here, and she's been there for a long time, so I want to thank her for her work. But I also want to thank Councilwoman Gross. One thing I can tell you, she's a fighter for the community, and she's going to just continue no matter whether people like it or not. She's going to do what she thinks is best, so I appreciate that about her. She sometimes gives me a hard time too, okay? but anyway, I do want to say that one of the things when I was on there that I thought we were missing the mark on is we don't really work well with the magistrates. So when we have people that are getting fined and cited for their properties, we don't do a good job of telling people what's available to them to help them so that they're not losing their homes, so they're not paying a fine that they can't really afford. And oftentimes the magistrates, torn between issuing a fine, which they can't afford in the first place, or allowing them to, giving them a continuance, which allows them to, fix the property, hopefully, and then they still don't have the money. So I wish that we would do a better job of communicating with our housing court, with our magistrates, even if we can't be there for every case. I mean, it'd be nice. I really think what the city of Pittsburgh needs is just a housing committee in general, just one that oversees and puts all these efforts and all these programs together, because we have so much to offer people, but people don't know how to navigate the system. It's not really helping the people or reaching the targets where we want to reach. So I just want to say, I wish you would think about those things, and thank you for your work, and thank you to Councilwoman Gross. You're serving on there now, correct? Yes. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll also simply thank you all for your work. I will have one question, and this is, I know the answer, but I'm just making a larger point. The funding that is here, is it enough to fund the various amounts of projects we have before us at the URA?
Likely not. We do our best to manage and sequence projects, but yeah, it's there's certainly more demand than what we can provide funding for.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Affirmative recommendation. That exhausts our agenda for today. David, I have a quick question for you. Don't leave just yet. We do have meeting announcements. Council budget hearings continue this afternoon at 1:30 p.m. with the Commission on Human Relations, chaired by Councilperson Strasburger, the Carnegie Library, chaired by Councilwoman Smith, and the Oakland Business Improvement District and the PDP, chaired by myself. On Thursday, December 8th, Council's 10 a.m. budget hearing is with the Department of Public Works, including the Administration, Environmental Services, Facilities, Operations, and Capital Projects, which is chaired by Councilman Cargill. At 1:30 p.m., Council will hold budget hearings with the Park Tax Trust Fund, chaired by Councilman Coghill, and the Department of Parks and Recreation, chaired by Councilman Burgess. On Monday, December 12th at 10 a.m., we will hold the swearing-in ceremonies for our incoming new member, Councilwoman-elect Barbara Warwick, here in Council Chambers.
It would be so good not to see her sitting over here instead.
Anything else from members?
I just want to say Councilman Kraus is chairing the library hearing.
Okay. If not, need a motion to approve the minutes and adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.